welcome everyone. First of all, so cool, day 3 of the Berkshire Yoga Festival. We made it to here. Woo! It's been a wild ride. Thank you all for all the support you see of all the volunteers, all the key members of the teams that are kind of behind the scenes making everything happen. This is a really special event for me because we're not just, I feel like I have a toddler, which is the Berkshire Yoga Festival with my business partner, Scott. And then we decided to have another baby, which was to launch a second company called the American Yoga Council, which is basically launched yesterday or the day before. Yeah. All right. And what's weird about it, or not weird about it, is, or I guess what's meaningful about it, is that it's been something that me and Jay Brown have been talking about for way too long.
I have a ritual when I have had someone who's been on the show a bunch of times, as you have. In fact, I think you may now have the record for most visits with this one.
This will be my 5th one, right?
Now, I will preface that by saying only because your first visits were in your capacity when you were with YA.
Right.
So it's sort of, I feel like this is a different iteration of you. But I was looking back, because I always like to look at the times that you've been on and what the topics were. So the first time you came on was in 2016, and we discussed the new yoga therapy terminology policy that got announced. Some of you are nodding your heads. Maybe you remember when that happened. It caused a bit of a stir. Andrew came on. I remember it was a little contentious because you were like a spokesman for YA, and I was like, not sure I was understanding what was going on. But as time went on, it changed, and then you were in charge of the standards review project, and we came on and we talked about that. And then we had a conversation just like this with a live audience, which I don't do a lot of, but you and I did that at the last Yoga Journal conference.
Yeah, the last Yoga Journal conference in New York City.
In 2017, and the title of it was The Future of Yoga.
Right.
And the future of yoga looked very different then.
Yeah, no one talked about AI. No one talked about, online yoga.
No, and you were still hamstrung in terms of, I think, your freedom with which to speak.
From work, I worked for the Yoga Alliance. That's YA parlance. Probably half the audience is like super yoga dorks like us, and then half is just like, well, we're here at this weird festival.
All right, well, we won't speak in such insider terms then. What I'd say to anybody who's not familiar, Andrew is someone who's been having conversations with me, and I think with a lot of other folks in the yoga world, about the state of the industry, and I think a lot of people's dismay with the trade organizations that have come about over the years. There's been so many different iterations of that, but the conversation has always been, okay, rather than bash what is happening, which we don't like, what would be the thing that you would do instead? Like, what's the alternative option? And frankly, I kind of washed my hands with it because I just felt like you couldn't really find consensus. There's so many different diverse traditions of yoga. The idea that you're going to find one standard that that's going to apply to everybody never made sense to me. The idea that there's going to be like a yoga police that are going to make sure everybody's doing good yoga or whatever. Right. All these things. My friend over here is laughing. Me too. So I've become very skeptical about it and kind of stopped talking about it on the show because I'm just like, you know what? I don't think there's anything really fruitful here anymore. And then Andrew's been brewing this thing up and like talking in everybody's ear about it. And I do think that there's some really new things that you're putting on the table. So I guess for people listening, why do you think we need to have a new entity or organization for yoga teachers?
My whole adult career, my whole adult life has been about helping yoga teachers and studio owners make a living doing what they love. Like, I don't know why it's my dharma or purpose or whatever, but it's just the thing that has been handed to me as the role I've always had. And I think when I was at Yoga Alliance, I was there in a very sincere capacity trying to change the organization, trying to we added the social credentialing piece. We tried to make change. I really believe that things are worth saving and improving and trying to change and fix them. And so when it comes to yoga, I think that when people first get into yoga, they're like, oh, I love yoga. It's amazing. This is like changing my life. It's the best thing ever. Then you get really into yoga. Maybe you do a teacher training, and maybe a few years after that, you get like the jaded yoga teacher experience, which I think many of us, some people may be in it, some people have gone through it. I see a lot of smirks. And because you realize like, okay, we're operating in America and this, society with all kinds of weird incentive structures. And it's hard to make a living and do so in a way that doesn't feel like you're selling your soul.
And the industry's just changed.
Yeah, and a lot of change.
Rapidly.
And not a lot of yoga teachers are great at business stuff,
No.
So I just think, I'll just say this. I've been through loving yoga, being disgusted by everything, and then loving it again, and being like, oh my God, this is the best ever. We got it, with all of its good parts and bad parts, this is still one of the best things for people in the world. And I say to people sometimes like, okay, the US, they say 9% of Americans are practicing yoga or practice yoga. Well, why can't we make it 30%? Like, okay, I guess yoga's not perfect, but I think most of us can agree it's really helpful for the vast majority of people.
All right, wait a second. Wait, I'm just talking.
All right,
We're going to do this old school, like you said.
Yeah.
And
I said, Jay, we didn't prepare anything. I said, go at me, man.
That part that you just pointed to,
Yeah.
that's a little bit of like the technology thing that you want to do to grow things. Let's put a pin in that, because I've got some issues there that we should discuss. But
Great.
I think that the parts of it that are most intriguing to me, which is kind of where I want us to go first, the main big thing that stands out to me first is the revenue share component thing.
Sure.
Because
Yeah.
I think that's the thing where, I know I've trained a lot of yoga teachers over the years myself, and registering and people maintaining their registration. At some point, the question is, well, why do I have this registration? What is this really doing for me? And a lot of times, we don't really have a good answer. Like, they don't have a good answer either when you ask them, honestly. And they're probably going to listen to this, and with respect. I'm not trying to bash anybody.
You're talking about Yoga Alliance?
I'm talking about Yoga Alliance. Yeah. But, the membership dues go in there. It goes into a black box, and it's an investment portfolio. You can go on the website and look at their tax statements. They've got all millions of dollars in an investment portfolio. When you've got yoga teachers who are like struggling to try to feel like they have making a living for $30,000 or $40,000 a year or whatever.
Yep.
And so the big difference is what you're seeming to do something very different than that. So speak to that.
Okay, so our core value as a software company is generosity, followed by transparency, followed by right livelihood. Hell yeah. And what that means is we start by, if you really care about something, you can make things happen with less resources and more intelligently designed. And so we're going to give 50% of the money back. So basically, you're a yoga school, you create a yoga teacher training or whatever it is, or even if you're just a senior yoga teacher, you're someone that says, I'm going to be a yoga teacher from age 25 to age 75, right? And you're going to try to make that your life. Then 40% of all the dues that come in, the membership dues from graduates of your training, or even people that list you as mentor, that you yourself agree are a student you are a mentor of, you will get the commission from that. We use an algorithm to distribute it, kind of like Spotify. And the idea is every yoga teacher should have a retirement fund. I remember, yeah, right? I was talking to Jurian Hughes, who's a yoga teacher in the Berkshires. She's been teaching, I won't say how old she is, but she's been teaching for a while. And she's really, I think, a very successful yoga teacher, a leader of Kripalu yoga teacher trainings. And I was trying to give her business advice and support as a friend. And I asked her, does she have a retirement fund? And she said, no. And I was like, okay, every yoga teacher should have a retirement fund. And that's the start of it.
I think that's a great idea. I don't have a retirement fund. I don't know a lot of yoga teachers who do. I'm a little skeptical that this revenue stream would be the retirement fund, but I think I get your point. I guess what I would say is I feel like you didn't sell it in the way that I think it's really important.
Sell it for me.
I'm not going to try to sell for you, but I think to me what it is, it's a revenue share. So all these years you you put in your time as a yoga teacher and you develop your teaching and your intellectual property, if you like to think of it that way.
Yeah.
And then you develop a teacher training, which is usually like the kind of the ultimate expression of what you do as a teacher, because you're really sharing your whole process of what you do as a teacher. And a lot of times that's become a primary way for yoga centers to make their income sometimes, which is an issue which we've discussed before.
Yep.
But the idea that, okay, I'm going to certify someone and they're going to maintain registration in a trade organization, and those annual membership dues, I get a share of that.
Absolutely.
That feels way more generous to me than what we've had.
Yeah, we're gonna imagine if half of the revenue that Yoga Alliance has generated over the last 25 years was just given back automatically. It'd be millions of dollars.
I'm going to also assume, since it says on your website that transparency is one of your big overriding principles, that the other 50%, we're going to know where that goes. Yeah?
Yeah, it's going to go to. So this is actually the other thing. With Yoga Alliance, it's just, and I'm not trying to bash them. I actually think there's still a purpose that they can serve, but the badge that you get, right, from Yoga Alliance or from us or whoever, that's not the only thing that we do. So we're building an app that is really to help, like our core values, our mission, I would say, are to help yoga teachers make a living, right? So our registry should be the easiest place in the world to find the right yoga teacher for you. So, imagine like LinkedIn and Ancestry.com had a yoga baby. You love studying yoga with Leslie Kaminoff, and you're visiting Denver for the weekend, and you want to find a teacher that has been trained in the desk guitar lineage. Well, right now, like, how could you do that? You Google yoga studios, and you kind of don't. It's just some big mishmash. It takes a lot of research, and it's really hard for people. But imagine where you could just say, like, you could follow the lineage because you can see how people are connected. So I only say that because I think not only are we going to, when you say where does the other 50% go, it goes to pay for the creation of this software and app that is going to help yoga teachers get more business. And that's when I first said about how I want more people to practice yoga, we need to use technology to make it easier for people to practice yoga.
I get it. I think if you could make a more useful way for people to find the yoga that's appropriate for them, I think that would be a good thing. I think that would help the teachers who are involved with it as well. I suppose the thing that I'm also very curious about, because the conversation we've had over the years with the Yoga Alliance is around standards and kind of the myth of standards and this idea of 200-hour standards and people who've done 200-hour trainings. We all kind of know it's this nebulous thing. And then during the pandemic, the online learning thing happened, and now the contact hours and non-contact hours, it all kind of morphed, nobody knows what it is anymore, right?
Well,
but what I will say is,
some people know what he's saying, right?
Some people, what I will say is that what's practically happened is that individual teachers want to have integrity and be authentic in what they do. So even though they've played within this system of 200 hours, 300 hours, and are like registered and do that because if you feel like you have to,
right?
Within that, people are really kind of developing what their standard is. Because the 200 hours, you can have 20 hours of yoga philosophy, it could be anything. Because within yoga philosophy, it could be a lot of different things. So the idea is you have come up with some different ideas. How are you handling the idea of trying to create one objective standard that everybody's supposed to fit into?
That's a great question. So I've been thinking about this question since 2014 when I was a volunteer board member at Yoga Alliance. And I was in a board meeting, and one of the exercises we did in the board meeting was to split up into teams, and one team was working on the Yoga Alliance, brand or whatever, I don't know. And the other team was like, come up with a stealth competitor to Yoga Alliance. That was my team. And I was so pumped about this idea. So I got at that time, it wasn't a revolutionary idea. It's been done before. about competency-based standards. Like, it always bugged me about hours. Like hours, checking off a box, a certain number of hours of this or that. I just think hours doesn't make any sense. I think what matters is the teacher competent, and is the person saying they're competent? And at some point, you have to just keep going up the ladder, up the ladder, up the ladder. And at some point, you have to start with someone who's grandparented in, who has a lot of social proof that we all agree they're competent, right? And so then you also can use tools to use transparency to say, okay, I am the J. Brown Yoga School, and here's what I believe a competent yoga teacher is. Bullet point 1, bullet point 2, bullet point 3, et cetera. And then when you decide to certify someone, you have to believe that they fit all those things. Because what I've seen happen, I used to own yoga studios. When you're trying to run a yoga studio and you have 15 people in your teacher training, and there's someone who's totally not competent, and you have a lot of pressure to graduate them and certify them because you don't want to deal with the refund or the challenge. There's just all these bad incentives that are really hard. And so I think that the whole system of how yoga studios are reliant on teacher trainings, this new system of standards changes that. And practitioner standards can be another thing that can help studios make money, but
So let me
go ahead.
stop for a second.
Sure.
So, all right, because there is an issue there. I hear what you're saying, but if someone pays thousands of dollars for a yoga teacher training, and then they're like, I'm sorry, you don't pass, how is what you're doing going to address that?
Well, I mean,
How is it going to make it easier for someone to not pass someone even though they paid?
Because, first of all, I think our system allows for a real revolutionary way to, not revolutionary, let's not overblow it. It's the way that yoga used to be taught. Like, my first time teaching yoga was my teacher saying, Andrew, I am sick. Will you teach the class? I didn't have a certificate, right? So why do we, and I had studied with this guy for years and spent time living with him a little bit, and I think there's actually, when I talked to Nikki Myers, similar story. Some of the best yoga teachers in the world, they started teaching because their teacher asked them to teach, and the relationship between teacher and student is such a powerful thing. And we've created this system that's like a money system of, okay, I'm going to create a training, it'll have a cohort, make a bunch of money, and then there's all this pressure to graduate them. I would say why it helps is we can separate the cohort training from the certification part. So for example, like Shiva Ray, I remember I talked to her years ago at Yoga Alliance. She travels all around the world teaching yoga. She's like, Andrew, I have people studying with me for over 20 years. They come into my retreats, but they live in Greece. They can't make it through 200 hours of my thing. Can I just give them a certificate? And the answer was no. And I thought that's just so silly. It's like, why don't we just say what the competencies are, and then we let the teachers and the schools have so much freedom and creativity to decide what the real process is and individualize it. I think it will help improve the quality of yoga teachers, and also it will allow us to be more in truth and integrity with
it's
our
just more
students.
honest. It's
yeah,
just
more
more
honest.
honest. Yeah, I think it's more honest. And I guess I see what you're saying, because I looked at the new system. You put a bunch of stuff up on the website that I hadn't seen before. So just like in the last hour before I was getting ready to talk to you, I was on the website. And there's a whole bunch of new stuff on there. And you laid out all the levels that you've come up with. Now, how set is that? Is that still open? 'Cause I know
No,
there's a
I would say,
council.
so we're launching in beta now. We're beta at least through the end of the year.
Yeah.
Anyone who joins now, it's 50% off. The membership isn't just to get your stamp. It's also there are features like, we're building a system that will help you with your business.
Yeah.
It's $54 a year for teachers. It's $108 a year for teachers. It's $214 for schools. But then it's half off that right now. Mm-hmm. So school can join for $108. And where were we going with that?
Well, I was going to talk about the new level,
the standards,
the new,
yeah.
the
So
new
the levels.
standard system that
So
you created.
we're just
let me say
starting-
one
no,
thing.
oh,
Let me
wait.
preface it
Oh, wait,
before
wait, wait.
let me preface it because I want to. You've got some stuff that's prepared. I'm happy for you to say it, but let me say one thing about it that I noticed that I thought was significant because it goes to what you just said, which
Cool.
is you want to get back to a little bit more of how some of the people that we most admire became teachers before there was 200 hours, and what that was based on was somebody like showing up consistently and just demonstrating practice and an ongoing relationship over time. So it does seem to me that the new system, it is based, I know you call it like, scope of practice and experience.
Yeah.
These like two things that are like descriptors of each level, but it is roughly based on like how much time someone spends with the teacher.
No.
And then,
Oh, sorry.
I guess the sort of, in the view of the senior teacher who's the mentor in the relationship, how much they feel confidence in this person's deepening of their practice with it.
Yes, great question. So, and by the way, for those who are going to listen to this podcast later, like Jay and I, we were joking about the keep cutting each other off. It's just
Yeah,
for fun.
We always do that.
Yeah. So just the standards right now are not set in stone. I would say the next 6 months, we're building an advisory council. We're getting more people on it. We have people with different levels of expertise and standards and who think about competency-based education. What's the right term for that? Proficiency-based education. Like, I like to make things really plain English so that because it's all for the general public. The general public are the people that are going to take a yoga class. They're going to look at a standard and say to themselves, do I want to go with that teacher or this teacher? So the standard has to make sense to them. So level 1 teacher is someone who could teach a group class at a gym in a particular style. You know, they could teach a class. They're probably not going to give a bunch of assists to people.
Like the equivalent of a 200-hour kind of thing.
Maybe, I don't know if you need a 200-hour training. I don't think hours matter anymore. I really don't. I mean, I'm not
Like what we talk about now.
Maybe that's what we think about now is 200 hour. And on our website, it says like a 200 hour.
Yeah.
But again, if someone's been studying with you for 5 years and then like you give them a few assignments to do that are the graduation requirements. So that's level 1. A level 2 teacher, can I go through the levels real quick?
Go ahead.
So the level 2 teacher is someone who could teach a group class, but they also know how to work with an individual one-on-one in a particular style or lineage. So they're not gonna, it's not like, this is actually what's really important. The general public has no clue. They just think every yoga teacher is the same. They don't get like a Kundalini teacher and a Deskachar teacher or a Vinyasa, that are so different.
Didn't we miss one? What's this practitioner training?
Oh yeah, I forgot
we missed
that.
one.
Okay.
That's new.
So the first standard is to have a practitioner training. And
That's for someone who just does a training but isn't teaching?
it's like, let's say you own a yoga studio and you have a bunch of students who are coming to your yoga classes and you can sense they're interested in going deeper, right? And they want maybe some kind of transformational experience, the kind of thing that the yoga teacher training has become a proxy for. Instead of those people just want to deepen their yoga. And by the way, after they deepen their yoga, they're so much better prepared to learn teaching techniques. Like learning teaching methodology when you haven't deepened your yogic knowledge and like it's all
So it's
flowing
to
in one ear and
encourage
flowing
a
out the other.
basis of practice first.
Correct. And on top of that, it's revenue for the schools. So it helps with I think there are these bad incentive structures in the current system. Right now, all the yoga schools are trying to make a living, and it's hard. And so yoga teacher training became the thing to make their profit margin work. You know that, right?
Because if you call it a workshop, it's hundreds of dollars, but if you call it a teacher training, it's thousands of dollars.
Yeah, so if you put a really beautiful certificate on it, and you put it on a really amazing looking website, and I think our branding is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And then we're trying to help and do the marketing for the schools. So every school gets their own page. It's really beautiful. It's really well designed, and obviously we're just getting started, but we are going to use that 50% of the money to keep building this tool to grow yoga and help the schools. And if we can encourage more people to become yoga practitioners, like I have friends in the audience who are not yogis, but I think they would love to do they would never do a yoga teacher training, no offense, guys, but maybe they would do a yoga practitioner training, because they are looking for a change or a shift in their health and well-being. And I think the 200-hour standard just encouraged lots of studios to do that as the program. So we're going to also, part of our company is every other week, business mastermind calls, business support calls, coaching calls, so that membership includes that, where we help you work on developing your programs.
I get it. So it does give like another item on the menu. Like you can do practitioner trainings instead of teacher trainings as well.
Yeah. So then we have practitioner trainings, then level 1 teacher. A level 2 teacher is someone who might do one-on-ones.
You say 4+ years.
Oh yeah, so you can't get a level 2 certificate until you've been practicing for at least 4 years. Teaching for at least 4 years.
I see.
And the idea behind that is, we're not going to restrict people. We're not the yoga police, right? We don't believe I agree with the Yoga Alliance's policy on non-regulation of yoga as an industry by the government. And I don't think we have to worry about that right now, to be honest. Government has enough things with this. Anyway, that being said, we think that, if someone has a level 1 training, they can do privates. But we wanted to create a system that we think would set an example for what a career path would look like, where at the end of that career, you had enough money to make a living, and you had a retirement fund, and you actually had the advice on how to get there, and you did it in the right order. Because so many teachers are trying to market themselves, but honestly, they're not good enough they don't have a product that's developed well enough. And the reason, so the levels that we have, they're also business advice for teachers of how you develop yourself to get to the level where you could be making 6 figures teaching yoga.
Oof, okay,
Oh,
okay.
Yeah. Got Jay excited. Jay,
I don't know if I'm
skeptical.
excited.
Oh, he's...
Here's what I would say. Okay, I'm with you a lot of the way there. I like the idea that it's based on time that people have put in and practice that people have put in, because I do think that's the testament of the gravitas that a teacher brings and the value that a teacher brings. Anybody can learn a sequence, but someone's life experience and who they are as a person and how they live their practice is what gets brought in the room with them. And I think that should be valued. So I like that that's what I feel like this is attempting to do.
Yes.
It's attempting to acknowledge that people who've spent a long time in practice, we should value them. Here's where I'm skeptical because, all right, so for instance, there's level 1, there's level 2, there's level 3, and you added another layer. So like a 1,000-hour kind of idea, or how many years was it? 10 years, 10 plus years. I like that. People who've been 10 years is different than people who've been in for 3 or 4 years.
It's not just 10 years. It's you didn't just teach for a few years and then take 6 years off and then teach years
but that's
again.
sticky, because what if somebody taught some classes here or there, or compared to somebody who taught 15 classes a week?
Absolutely.
It's not the same.
We actually are going to track that as best we can. But at the end of the day, you have to trust people at some point, and then you have to build other features in the technology that help the public understand the quality of the yoga teacher. So the standard is one thing.
Okay.
But then there's other things that you can build into the registry when a person is looking for a yoga teacher, like who was their mentor, or we don't have this feature yet, just but we are building a review process as well. And again, transparency is a core value. So I hope to also have a wiki on there, so you can understand what you're getting into. Schools have to be transparent about their pricing, their policies, their refund policies, all that stuff. So transparency isn't just in the standard, it's in the software. And the goal is just, the better we can educate people, the more quickly they can make informed decisions about and find the right teacher for them. I know people who are like, oh, I got this back thing, I got this thing, but they don't know how to find the right teacher. Every year at Thanksgiving, they're coming up to me like, I want to get into yoga. What should I do? And you're like, oh, where do you live? Okay. Oh, what's your, like, so I think that they go hand in hand is what I mean.
Okay.
And it's not going to be perfect.
No,
you know?
no.
Yeah.
You know me. I'm just looking at this from my standpoint.
I wanted you to be the first interview, not just because we're friends, but even though we're friends, you can see how she's grilling me. Like, and I don't mean me personally. I mean, you care so much about this.
Let's just be real now, because the issue with the past organizations is there's often a lot of very fancy talk.
Yeah.
But the realities ends up being something different. So I guess the only other question I have, like, again, I'm with you on the way that you're looking to develop these kind of standards of based on time and competency. I like competency more than hours. And I think you're looking to do that by having it be more like a year's investment rather than like logging all the hours that you spent on anatomy or whatever.
Yeah.
But here's the other thing. You have a level 4 yoga teacher on your standards. And I noticed one of the things on that level 4 was the test. What was it? You have like a test, do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. So here's the idea right now. First of all, let me say, just for anyone listening, I really, if you are passionate about this, if you're getting as excited about this as me and Jay, like, we want your feedback. We want your ideas. Like, I wouldn't say none is set in stone. The core idea of competency-based standards, scope of practice, like the core system is set in stone, but the actual, what the rules are for each level, we're very open to that. I think we're starting with letting people get certified at level 1, level 2, and 3. No one can get a level 4 certificate yet. Because what we wanted to do, the ultimate goal, I like having my cake and eating it too. And I think that this new way of doing things, it's very free market. It's very like each school is doing their own thing. But then I do believe there's also a collective. And there is, not that the collective can come to consensus on a lot, because when I was with the yoga standards.
It's always been the issue.
Yeah, from 2017 to 2019, I ran the standards review process for Yoga Alliance, talked to hundreds of yoga teachers, many of whom are here, and thousands of people submitted, their opinions. And it's like a Kumbh Mela. It's crazy. It's just like, And so, however, I do think that American yoga, and this is why we're starting with American yoga, and not like, we don't want to speak for India. I think that we shouldn't. And I think that we're starting here, but in American yoga, I think American yoga could actually have its own identity, which would be some kind of standardized tests around knowledge of anatomy and physiology and safety.
Okay, so that's what the core competencies exam is.
Yes. But
who's making the core competencies exam?
This will be created through the collective. So I'll say this. When I was doing that work for the Yoga Alliance, I co-wrote 8 white papers on these different subjects. I think you were involved too, right? Were you? Yeah.
Loosely.
Scope of practice, code of conduct. I actually think we did a great job with those things.
Some of those were okay.
Yeah. But I did present some different ideas that were not adopted. And then I left shortly after. And so I think that actually the consensus of that whole exercise was informative of this process, and I think around certain issues. Because, by the way, to get around things, like people always said, well, does Dharma Mitra need to be, know anatomy and physiology? He's clearly a master yoga teacher. Been teaching for 50 plus years. I don't think he would be able, I'm sorry, Dharma. I don't know whether he'd be able to pass the anatomy and physiology exam.
It's like Americans trying to pass like the immigration test that immigrants have to take about their own country.
Right.
They don't know. We wouldn't pass that test, most of us.
Right.
Similarly.
So how we get around that, though, is we also have a master credential. And that's something where the organization and the advisory council to the organization can make decisions on every year. and like have a voting process and have a kind of a consensus process, just like they do with like the Hall of Fame of baseball or something like that. So, but the level 4, I think that, we started this by talking about yoga therapy. I'm going to say something pretty provocative. Maybe I'm going to get in a lot of trouble for this, but I think that the whole yoga therapy thing, maybe Gary's going to really kill me for saying this, but the whole yoga therapy thing, I think it came out of yoga teachers who have so much knowledge and experience, who are the kind of teachers, many of whom are teaching here, who can literally take care of anyone who walks in the room because they have a deep understanding of anatomy, because they have a deep understanding of a particular lineage or style, because they've worked with so many bodies, and they're truly what I would think of as a master teacher. They wanted a credential that felt better than, they didn't want to be treated the same as someone who's been teaching for 4 years and went through a 500-hour training, in Costa Rica.
It was to try to legitimize the
Right,
work.
to legitimize the industry. Let's get licensed, and then we can go into the hospitals. And
we learned what a mess
and
that is.
look where that's getting them, because now the hospitals are just giving a 300-hour training to the doctors and the nurses, and they're getting, and those people, they're doctors and nurses, we love them, but like someone who's been teaching yoga for 20 years is completely different than a doctor or a nurse that took a 300-hour training. Yeah. So I think the whole yoga therapy thing is a mistake. The whole yoga therapist terminology is a mistake. Therapists that is a medical term in America right now. It means a psychotherapist or a physical therapist. What we need what we just needed to do was add a few more levels and then teach and show people what the right path was. So that's what we're doing. Yeah. Thanks.
Well,
you were there in the beginning. Leslie Kaminoff's shrieking.
Yes.
He was there when they made the Yoga Alliance standards.
Well, I think it is a good point also to just make reference of these CE badges or whatever, like, because you have a continuing education component, which Yoga Alliance did come up with, but one of the things that you've looked to do is give, it seems to me, teachers or trainers a way to better distinguish or let people know what they're doing a little bit more clearly. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so when we think about how we're building the product, when I say the product, I mean the app or whatever, and not just that, the standards, and how we think about how we're helping people, like how are we serving our key constituent, which is yoga teachers and yoga schools. We ask ourselves, like, okay, first, like, what's right? Like, how do we figure out the incentives and make them right? And then how do we design the system so that it helps them make a living? And so differentiating yourself in the marketplace is how you make a living, right? So actually level 3, which we're getting through the levels now, it includes like you should have a specialty of some kind.
Like some of the ones that are listed here, like accessible yoga, anatomy, physiology, and biomechanics, Ayurveda, Bhakti, like different signifiers that people use to describe what they do to attract the people to them, so that you're not meeting those expectations that you can't fill, kind of thing.
Yep.
So it would be clear and maybe save us some of those email back and forth, people asking stuff or whatever, right?
Yeah, and we tried to make them really cool looking and like interesting. And right now, just like continuing education is so broad. It's really the purpose of continuing education is to focus your knowledge and deepen your knowledge in a particular area. And then, you can build up badges on your profile, and so maybe a teacher who's really gung-ho and they've only been teaching for 3 years, and maybe they've already taken a training to be, to get at level 2, but they haven't gotten their 4 years yet. They might do CE, or they can, teachers are going to have tools to differentiate themselves. And also it helps the public understand a teacher. Like I can look at their profile and be like, oh yeah, this person's really into anatomy. Oh, this person's obviously not. They're into Bhakti. And actually that's what people want. They want to go and find the person that's right for them. Like I don't think there's good yoga teachers and bad yoga teachers. There's teachers that are right for you.
I know. It's right now it's like teachers trying to like write descriptions for their trainings to clue people into what they do, and I guess they're all using AI now or whatever. So I guess these badges would give it a little bit of a clearer signifier for people scrolling through what they're looking for.
Also, I think every yoga teacher, a big business mistake that yoga teachers make is they want to teach everybody. You know, that's what someone at like a level 4 could do. But I think it's not irresponsible to teach everyone, but think about doctors. Like, if you're going to become a doctor, you do pre-med, then you do med school, then you do is it a residency or internship, and then residency. I may have screwed up the last two, but like you go through a process where, and that process has been thought through for their industry. I'm not saying it's the best industry in the world, but we need something like that for yoga. You know, that's how I think we kind of grow up as American yoga.
Well, that's what the growing up is. I saw that on the website. Growing up is seeing if we can create a process that, I don't know, like.
Well, like Theodora Wildcroft, have you read her blog?
I think so. Which one are you referring to?
I can't. Oh man, I'm sorry, Theo. I can't remember the name of this particular piece. It's something like, just she actually really inspired me. She was one of the advisors during the Yoga Alliance days. She was writing about just yoga, trade organizations, and she's a yoga teacher. She's a yoga writer. She has a great book coming out. Here, Theo, I'm going to plug you. She's an amazing author. I love her writing. I love her Substack. And she was saying that what the yoga organizations need to do is just focus on helping yoga teachers make a living and think about these incentives. And she said, don't worry, the yoga community really cares a lot. Like, we're going to do the work of inclusion and equity and all that stuff on our own. Like, people are going to do that great work. What we need is all that money, all those resources, needs to be focused on helping the little guys have more resources and training them and educating them to like be on the right path. I meet yoga teachers all the time where I'm like, oh man, if I had just given you that piece of advice earlier, if you could have a better career, you'd be in a better situation.
I think that's true. Most yoga teachers have learned that like the teacher trainings, even though they have that like one session on you now being an entrepreneur business person, anybody who's been at all reasonably successful in it has often had another person who was business minded to work with, or like a team if you had the resources for that. So I think having a trade organization that provides those kind of resources to its members makes a lot of sense. Now, let me ask you a question, because one of the things in the past that's always been an issue is the kind of black box nature of these things. We've had many conversations just around like not-for-profit structures in general and like death by committees that happen in the not-for-profit structures. So I guess this is being set up, I read, as a public benefit corporation. And then maybe other people don't care about that, but to me, I am curious as to what you're going to do different in terms of the membership being involved in the process and not feeling like you're making decisions from on high or something like that.
We thought a lot about that, actually, in the very early days before we started the organization. My experience, I've worked for two of the largest yoga nonprofits in the country, Kripalu and Yoga Alliance, two great institutions, I would say, but also who struggle with running a nonprofit is very hard, and nonprofits get, the leadership of a nonprofit matters, but also if you
have a board to answer to.
And I tried to convince them multiple times to make big changes. It's always hard to make changes. Hey, Mike is back there. He knows at Kripalu, I tried to get them to make changes, and actually they did. Actually, to Kripalu's credit, I love all these organizations, by the way, but it was super hard. It's like moving. We always used to joke. I remember the CFO at Kripalu was like, changing things at Kripalu is like moving the Titanic. You turn the wheel, but it takes a long time to turn. And so I just think that what we need just to keep up and actually be relevant in what's going on in the world is to have a for-profit structure. That being said, I told all my investors that we're going to do a public benefit corporation, which means legally we do not have to make decisions based on purely on profit to the shareholders. We have a mission, and the mission is improve the livelihood of yoga teachers measurably, improve the quality of yoga education and yoga teaching, and then finally make finding the right yoga teacher for you as easy as finding a good cup of coffee. So if we do those things, we can make choices to do those things without, and let me just finish this thing. All the investors who got involved had to agree that we're giving away 50% of the revenue. 50. So that's
listen,
but let me say one, sorry, last thing. I shouldn't be defensive, but we do believe that transparency is a core value of ours. And so we're going to do our best to, when you have a for-profit structure, there's some things that where you can share and some you can't. And so we're going to do our best to kind of keep doing that.
Yeah, listen, as I said, when we started this, I've had many conversations about different possibilities, and I'm not a big fan of the not-for-profit structure because of some of the things that you're alluding to. So I think making it for-profit makes a lot of sense. I've never heard of a public benefit corporation. I think that's an interesting way to go. What I would say to you, and this is just as a friend who's like, I want it to work. I think it's a cool idea, and I would like for it to be a good thing for yoga teachers. I remember when you referenced earlier that time when you went in and you tried to make changes at Yoga Alliance, I wrote a blog post called, first one I wrote was, Yoga Alliance approved my ass. And then the next one I wrote was, giving Yoga Alliance a chance. Because I wanted, like you said, I wanted there to be a good thing for yoga teachers. And then the last one I wrote was, what now, Yoga Alliance? And there never really has been an answer to that. So I'm cool with you making it for profit. Here's what I would say to you is, there was a moment in the Yoga Alliance, I'll never forget, Richard Carpel was trying to pick a new logo. And what he did was he put it out. Some people are already smiling because they remember.
You don't know the full story, Jay. Wait.
Okay, but wait. Let me tell you my side, and then you can tell your side.
Sure, I will.
So they put out a call for people who wanted to design it, the membership. You want to design a logo for the organization, and people submitted them, and then we voted on them. And the one that I picked didn't get picked. I didn't like the one that they all picked, but I was cool with it, and I warmed up to it over time. Simply because I felt like I was part of a process. Yeah. I felt like I got a vote. I felt like I was involved. And that's what most yoga teachers want. So even if whatever you got to do, there wants to be a way for the members to feel like they actually have some kind of say in what they're part of.
100% agree with that. That's why the level 4, like creating those tests, creating those things, like that has to be a group process. But this time, we're actually going to listen to the group because, I mean, the funny thing is, I think Yoga Alliance made a mistake. They didn't listen to their users, if you want to use a software term. The users wanted something different, and they didn't make those choices. And so their membership has kind of stagnated. And so, like, it's just a simple, like, relationship where if we do what's right by the yoga community, they're going to want to keep renewing. But I want to tell you a really funny part of the story you don't know about. So I was on the board at that time. I was a volunteer. I was the head of the Kripalu Schools of Yoga and Ayurveda at the time. We were doing a brand new website for Yoga Alliance because we were starting social credentialing. This was our attempt to make the standards better. So this wasn't my decision, but the team spent $50,000+ hiring the marketing consulting agency from one. And look at the board that runs Yoga Alliance now. It's not the same board, so I'm not talking about anyone right now. But at that time, they paid $50,000 to hire Wanderlust's branding company, and they came up with a bunch of logos, and they were not good. They were terrible. And I said, let's use 99 designs, and let's run a yoga for $2,500. We did a 99 designs campaign, and we invited everyone in the yoga community to submit designs, and the woman that won was a member. Mm-hmm. And I also, I'm not going to say anything else. All right. I really like our logo for American Yoga Council. And
it's not about the logo. It's just about
but the process.
Feeling like you're like you actually have some say in it, that things aren't just coming out of a black box because it affects you. And even just that there's a revenue share already makes a big difference.
But so the process, I think we have this on our About page, right? Like how we think about things is like 3 major circles. It's basically our advisory council is kind of like people that are I have long-term relationships. It's not just me, by the way. We have a team of like over 10 staff right now. So, we have a team, so then there's our team, which includes like developers and UX UI people and, staff that will interface with support and sales and all these things. And then thirdly is the community. So actually, as soon as this festival is over, we're launching like tons of open house Zoom calls. Like, we just need to hear from you all. And we're like, I could talk about this all day long.
You've done that before. I've
Yeah.
watched you, so.
This is just, I don't know why, but I love it. Like,
Well, you're uniquely positioned, just as you were to do this festival, to do something like this. And most of the yoga teachers out there who've known you over the years would think that you're well positioned to do it. I guess, do you have any ideas about, I don't know, like, do you have an idea about timeframes of when you're looking to have this roll out? Or like, what do you see the process right now? You just want to have these conversations and get people interested, people who want to come forward? Because I guess that's it. Like, a lot of times people don't want to show up to Zoom meetings, but they want stuff done.
Yeah.
So people are going to have to show up and participate if they want to be involved.
Yeah, I mean, so we have done the heavy lifting to get things started. So we have, the website is active. You can register right now. You can create a profile for yourself as a teacher. You can create a profile for your schools. You can set up a school. We have a system that proves, that does identity verification to make sure someone's not setting up a fake account in some other famous teacher's name. And
if you're thinking that's weird, it happens a lot these days. There's a lot of bots signing up for people's email lists. Keep a lookout.
Yeah, we have the ability to create a program in the system, and literally, like I think the first school is like Suk from New York City.
Okay.
Rima, who's here, and I think did she already build the program too? Like, you're able, because it's a different style. Like, it doesn't take 3 months to get approved. Like, it can be done in about a week. It probably takes a few hours to upload your competencies and what you believe your program should be, and then it takes our team. It doesn't take our team that long to approve it. So, it's that part is all ready. Like, right now, we have this pretty much the same level. The only stuff that's not available yet, it'll be available in about a month, is the actual like searchable. You can search right now. You can find a teacher and you can see if they're linked to other mentors, but the database on the map and stuff that you've seen in some of the photos, that's still in a production site that'll be up in about probably by August, I would say, at the latest. You think maybe even July. Like, we're cooking on a lot of features. We have some stuff I haven't even talked about yet. It's going to blow people's minds.
That's what I was going to say. If anybody listening to this right now has opinions or ideas, probably now's the time to be getting in touch.
Yeah.
What about people here? I mean, we have a little bit of time left in this scheduled time. We have this audience of people who've been sitting here listening to us talk and rambled on about this. Does anybody here have anything they want to say or ask or anything? Yeah, I got a couple of hands.
Do we give him a mic? Or
I don't know if we can reach them or not. Just
Well,
talk real loud and we'll say it back.
Try to just say the question succinctly, and then we'll repeat it back through the mic. Who wants to go first?
Go ahead.
So I love this idea of transparency and competency. I'm still a little bit unclear about how that's going to get measured and verified. But my bigger question is, outside of the actual registry on the site, the services you're going to provide to help to differentiate the teachers in the yoga marketplace, because now a lot of popularity of teachers is how many Instagram likes they have and how stretchy they are and how much skin they show. And I'm too old for all that.
Yeah, I love this
Okay,
question.
so she's asking about how are you going to measure competency and verify that or whatever, and then you're also talking about not have, like, right now the way it works these days, people with more Instagram followers are the ones making more money, and you're trying to change that, and you want to know how he might be able to do that.
Yeah.
Or
Well,
this, but not him.
Yeah, I would say, well, for the first part is, so the competencies, like the knowledge of the teacher and the skills that the teacher has, the person who verifies that is the person that gives them the certificate, the school. But what those competencies and knowledges are, we transparently attach them to the credentials. So you mouse over the credential, boom, they're there. and on the page. So it's a built into the technology. So when you're looking at a teacher, you see what they're qualified for and what they're not.
You see, let me stop you for a second, because that was one thing that did happen in my time as a teacher in the last 30 years. There's been 1 or 2 occasions where there was some slight improvement. One was when they asked the teacher training programs to submit a curriculum. Granted,
Then you're
they had
giving
all
your
kinds of
IP.
stupid things and hoops that we had to jump through to make those dumb curriculums, and it took forever. But the idea that you submit a curriculum based on what you're offering so that the person taking your training can see that and then could potentially evaluate whether they felt that you delivered that, that's the transparency that you're talking about. And that's what has been happening. So it's just about, again, being more honest about that.
Yeah, and it's also about being clearer, because the public is not going to read an entire curriculum. We need to speak to the public, because that's who we're trying to serve with more yoga. So the second part of your question is, and this is actually a big problem in the yoga community, finding the right yoga teacher. Instagram does not help people find the right yoga teacher, I feel.
Neither does Google.
Neither does Google.
Yeah.
Google. The reason is because these horizontal social networks their goal is to monetize your attention and basically steal your soul. Because you all know yoga is the training of attention. And our goal, like our actual community, what we're all here about is like teaching people to pay attention and to be present with themselves. And the goal of these corporations that are social networks is to steal that attention and to take that attention. And so this is also a vertical social network for yoga. And it will be in our mission, is to design it never to monetize attention. That's why there's a membership. And what's great is we have a built-in model where people are already willing to pay for a membership for something like this. So we can afford to do that. And then we can build a product that's really, really great for the public and not have to use ads and make it about that kind of thing. And because we're a public benefit corporation, we don't have to just build something to become billionaires. We can there's gonna be plenty of money. I'm gonna, if it works, no one will ever feel bad for me and the people that are working for us. But we don't have to. So I said from the beginning, core value of the company is generosity. And yesterday we did a panel with the CEO of Lightphone, a founder of Lightphone, and the CEO and founder of Daylight Computer. And these are technology companies, also public benefit corporations, that are non-greed based and that are trying to create products that help people. And if we do that, I don't know, it really is why I'm doing this.
I would say
maybe we can do something that helps.
Well, I think you're onto something there. I think most yoga teachers right now, particularly coming down of the last few years, getting back in person like we're doing here at the festival, the need is for humanizing experiences. And so when the trade organization for yoga feels dehumanizing, then it feels wrong. So if we could have the American Yoga Council be something that you feel like a human to be involved with, I think it will be a huge improvement.
Thank you, Jay.
Does anybody else? Someone else had a question
well,
here.
we have to wrap.
Oh, we have to wrap?
Well,
Wait, we said she could. Let's let her have a question.
Bharti gets
Let's
one
let her have a
question, then
question.
we'll wrap. You want to take the mic? Is that okay? Does she need both mics? Here.
Actually, I need both? Okay. It's actually a feedback thing. It's a feedback thing. I love and appreciate what you all are doing here. And what really strikes me the most, first of all, helping the public. We have to help the public. That's why we're here. That's why we're called. Supporting the teachers with relevant guidance for the world that they're teaching in today, and with real support. Right? And I really, really appreciate you speaking to the value of the relationship between the teacher and student. Because too many yoga teachers today don't have a yoga parent. And if you don't it's so much harder to be out in the world doing this thing. So thank you.
I think that sounds pretty good to me. Well, I imagine there'll be more announcements to come. There's the website. There'll be links in the description if anybody's listening to this on the podcast.
AmericanYogaCouncil.com. Check it out. Join the beta. Get involved. Thank you, Jay, so much. Of
course.
I'm really grateful.
We'll keep talking.
Thank you, Bharati. Yeah, I'm
Very
sure we're
cool.
going to keep talking.
Cool. Thank you,
right.
guys. Thank you.
Bye.